In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to do an independent measures ANOVA. The data set I am going to be using in this example is different than the data used for the lab, but the steps are basically the same. If you haven't done so already, make sure you read through that study description that was mentioned to do a couple steps earlier. I'm just going to briefly give you an overview of this study so you understand what we're doing, what the variables are. So in this study, they were looking at what happens after a traumatic experience. People have flashbacks, which are called intrusive memories, and they wanted to see what basically could interfere with the storage of that memory. James and colleagues wanted to see if a visual spatial task like Tetris, doing that while a memory is reconsolidating, would interfere with the storage of that memory and therefore reduce the frequency of the subsequent intrusions. So they hypothesized that only participants who complete a visual spatial task after reactivation of the traumatic memories would experience a reduction in the intrusive memories. In comparison, simply completing a visual spatial task without reactivation or reactivation without a visual spatial task would not reduce the intrusive memories. So if we go back to the data set in JASP that I've opened up already, we can see here we have 4 conditions. We have a no task control, we have the reactivation plus Tetris group, we have the Tetris only group, and we have the reactivation only group. And you can see that these conditions are what's called stacked. They're all in the same column. And this stacked condition corresponds to my dependent variables of interest. Here I'm interested in day 1 to 7 number of intrusions. So to run my ANOVA, I'm going to go up here to where it says ANOVA. I don't want the repeated measures ANOVA. That we'll do next week when we do within subjects designs. I want the one that just says ANOVA. And I'm going to put in my dependent variable and my fixed factors. So my dependent variable I just said was day 1 to 7 number of intrusions. For your lab, your dependent variable is going to be wisdom. Then my fixed factor is going to be my independent variable, or my condition in this case. And you can see here the ANOVA is just going to populate right next to it. So if we come over here to this table, we can see the first column here, well, it's really the third column, I suppose, is degrees of freedom. And so these degrees of freedom, if you remember back to statistics, are calculated based on specific formulas. For the first degree of freedom, it is k minus 1, k being the number of groups. We had 4 conditions or 4 groups, so 4 minus 1 is 3. This second degree of freedom is calculated based on the number of participants. This experiment had 72 participants, and it's n minus k, so number of participants subtract the number of groups. 72 minus 4 is your 68. I won't go over these calculations, but if you remember from statistics, there are, again, very specific ways to calculate your mean square from your sum of squares. It's basically your sum of squares divided by your degrees of freedom. And then these mean squares give you your F value. So this is the calculated F value, and if we were back in statistics, you would compare that to a expected F value in a table, and you would look to see if it was significant. JASP, on the other hand, gives you a specific p-value and tells you whether it's significant. So we want to look at this p-value. This is the F value we'll report, and this is the p-value that would be reported. Now, is this p-value less than 0.05? So is 0.014 less than 0.05? Yes, it is, meaning that there is a significant difference between the groups. The group means are unequal. But wait, we don't have any means or standard deviations or standard errors. We could go up to descriptives and calculate that, but we can also just come here and click this little descriptive statistics box, and we'll see it populate right here. And see, it's much better to have these names than to have simply numbers, right? You might also be interested in some point in estimates of effect size. We're not going to worry about that for this class. But since we had significance, we know we can look here and we can see, okay, the mean for reactivation plus Tetris is lower than all 3 of these. But is it significantly different than all 3 of these? So we want to go and run a post-hoc test. We're going to click on condition and move that right on over. For this, we're going to go ahead and run a Tukey post-hoc test. Now remember, when we did a t-test, we didn't need to do a post-hoc test because there were only 2 conditions. Now when you do an ANOVA and you have 3 or more conditions, you need to see what's significantly different. And again, at some point you might be interested in confidence intervals. We might want to flag significant comparisons. So it's kind of hard to see the whole table. So if I click here on this gives me a whole window view of that output. All right, now let's look at our post-hoc table. This table is showing you a no-task control group in comparison to reactivation plus Tetris, Tetris only, and reactivation only. So if we go over here all the way over, this shows us our p-value and it's flagged, it's starred, so it is significantly different. So the no-task control recalled a significantly higher number of intrusions than the reactivation plus Tetris group. However, it had the same number of intrusions compared to the Tetris only and reactivation only, as seen here by these insignificant p-values. Those are both much greater than 0.05. Here, we're comparing reactivation plus Tetris to the other two groups, Tetris only and reactivation only. If we come over here, and I just want to point out, these are the mean differences. These are not the means you report. The means you report is in the descriptive tables. This is just telling you the mean difference. So we come over here, we can see that only this one is significant, so that's reactivation only. So reactivation plus Tetris is significantly different from reactivation only. That means that reactivation plus Tetris recalled significantly fewer number of intrusions on day 1 to 7 than reactivation only, but not compared to the Tetris only. And if you look here, it's just because this is a little bit lower and has a pretty high standard deviation. And then we can look and see here, this one comparing reactivation only and Tetris only is also not significant.